didn't begin with love, it began with a choice, a single fatal hesitation. The night I met Vivian, I was hunting, or so I thought. My father, the greatest vampire hunter of his time, had trained me for years, sharpening me into a weapon. I thought I was ready, but nothing could have prepared me for her. She stepped out of the shadows, pale and beautiful, her silver hair catching the moonlight. Her eyes were ice blue, and when they met mine, I felt the breath leave my body. She wasn't armed. She didn't need to be. "You're Caleb," she said, her voice low, almost mournful. "I've been sent to kill you." Her words should have sent me running. Instead, I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. "If that's true," I said, "why am I still alive?" She didn't answer, not with words. Her hesitation spoke louder than anything she could have said. Vivian didn't take me to the coven that night. Instead, she let me go. I should have reported her, but I didn't. Something about her stayed with me. Her voice, her eyes, the way she trembled when she spoke my name. Weeks passed and I couldn't get her out of my head. And then she found me again. It was in the ruins of an old town, the kind of place where only ghosts linger. She stepped out of the darkness, her movements silent, her presence undeniable. "I couldn't stay away," she admitted, her voice raw. "I was supposed to bring you to them, but I couldn't. I don't know why." I didn't know either, but I didn't care. We talked that night, sitting among the rubble. She told me about her life, how she was turned against her will, how the coven used her as a pawn. She hated what she was, hated the blood on her hands. "I don't feel alive anymore," she said, her voice breaking. I didn't know what to say, so I took her hand. It was cold, but she didn't pull away. We met in secret after that, each meeting more dangerous than the last. I saw the human inside her, the girl she used to be. She saw something in me too, something that made her believe she could be more than what the coven had made her. Slowly our connection grew. We weren't supposed to fall in love. It was against every law of her kind, every instinct of mine. But we couldn't stop it. She kissed me for the first time under the canopy of a cursed forest. The air was thick with mist, and the distant howls of wolves echoed through the trees. It wasn't soft or tentative, it was desperate, filled with the knowledge that every second we had together could be our last. That kiss sealed our fate. The coven found out about us. They sent hunters after her, creatures that moved faster than shadows and killed without hesitation. We barely escaped, running deeper into the cursed forest, where the air grew colder and the trees seemed to whisper our names. That's when she told me about the pregnancy. We had taken shelter in an abandoned chapel, its walls blackened by fire, its once sacred air now heavy with despair. Vivian paced the room, her hands trembling as she tried to find the words. "I'm pregnant," she said at last, her voice trembling. I froze. The idea was impossible, unthinkable. Vampires couldn't have children, but when I saw the way she held her stomach, the tears in her eyes, I knew it was true. "It's ours," she said, her voice breaking. "But it's not just a child, Caleb. It's a threat. They'll do everything to make sure he's never born." Her words hit me like a blow. The coven wouldn't stop until they destroyed him and her. "I'll protect you," I said, pulling her into my arms. She shook her head. "You can't protect us from this. The forest, the witches, the demons, they're all against us. And the curse, it's already killing me." Her voice broke on the last word, and for the first time I felt helpless. But I made a promise that night. "They'll never touch him," I said, "not while I'm alive." The forest turned against us. Shadows came alive, clawing at us as we ran. Wolves with glowing red eyes stalked us from the treetops, their howls echoing like laughter. And then Azrael came. The ground split open, and he rose from the depths, his massive form blotting out the stars. His body writhed with the faces of the damned, their mouths open in eternal screams. His voice was a low growl, vibrating through the earth. "You think your love can save you?" he sneered. "The abomination will die, and so will you." Vivian stood in front of me, her body trembling, but her voice defiant. "You'll have to kill me first." Azrael smiled. That was always the plan. The battle that followed was chaos. Vivian fought with everything she had, her movements a blur of violence. But the forest drained her strength, feeding on the curse that bound her. Azrael struck her down, his claws tearing into her chest. She screamed, a sound that shattered the night. I caught her as she fell, her blood staining my hands. "Run!" she whispered, her voice barely audible. But I didn't run. I took the vial from my pocket, the fragment of my soul, forged into a weapon by my father. It was our last chance. "Caleb, no!" Vivian pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "You'll die." I cupped her face in my hands. "As my journey ends," I said, "our son's will begin. I'll always be with him, Vivian. When he fights, I'll fight. When he falls, I'll lift him. This isn't the end. It's the beginning." Before she could stop me, I shattered the vial against my chest. The fire erupted, consuming everything in its path. Azrael screamed as the flames devoured him, his body collapsing into ash. The forest fell silent, the shadows retreating. When I opened my eyes, she was gone. I was fading, my soul burned away. But I wasn't afraid. Somewhere Vivian and our son were alive. And I knew he would fight. Because bloodlines are more than curses, they're legacies, and the world doesn't know what's coming.